Welcome back. Since the war with Iran began, gas prices up 27%, diesel up 34%. So, what effect will this have on the economy? Well, we're going to turn to Justin Wolfers, who's going to tell us about that. He calls me mate, which he has full permission to do in every interview we do. So, Justin, you and I know the answer to that question.
Yes.
You and I know the answer to that question because before the war started, you heard the president say it, I heard the president say it. When fuel prices go down, everything goes down with it. Well, the opposite must also be true.
I've got a different piece of advice for you, Garrett. Don't listen to him then, and then you won't have to listen to him now either.
You can call me
if
Major,
someone doesn't
too.
tell you the truth, you don't have to listen to him. So, look, you just said, gas prices are up about 30%. Well, bad news, oil prices are up about 60%. That means we're only halfway there with what's going to happen to gas prices overall. But that's not really the whole story. Goldman Sachs is out with a note a couple of days ago, sort of revising all of their forecasts in light of the Iran war. And what they're saying is that we could expect another 250,000 people to join the ranks of the unemployed. We can expect economic growth to slow. And by my calculation, an economic cost that will be measured in the hundreds of billions. If you took Goldman's numbers seriously, roughly around about $200 billion. So this is a really big deal.
And what would we attribute those job losses that you just summarized from the Goldman Sachs note to? Where would they come from that wouldn't have been there before?
Yeah. So there's actually a few ways forward. One is oil. Oil is a big input into everything, and you're making something more expensive. Another part of it is a rise in geopolitical risk. The world is not the safe place that it was a year ago. And then going with that, a rise in uncertainty. And there's also a sense that oil price hikes are have an even larger effect when geopolitical strife goes with it. Look, here's the basic question. If you're thinking about expanding your factory or opening a new outlet or starting a new business right now, you've always got the option of waiting a few months to see how reality shapes out. And in a moment like this, that starts to feel like an even better and better bet. And so that means that new businesses get stopped, new investment gets stopped, new hiring gets stopped, and that's how you slow an economy.
What does this mean for the Federal Reserve?
Look, that's a very complicated question. Let me explain the simple, then the complicated version. The simple version is this is going to cause higher inflation, and that normally leads the Fed to raise rates. It's also going to cause higher unemployment. That normally leads the Fed to lower rates. That's why people say it's a dilemma. Now, actually, if you study a little more economics, we complicate things a bit. We distinguish between a demand shock, too many people want to buy too much stuff, and a supply shock. It became harder to produce stuff cost effectively. This is a supply shock. And the way a supply shock is meant to work is the price of oil goes up, the price of a lot of other things go up. Inflation occurs while those price rises are happening. But once we get to those new prices, there's no reason for them to continue rising. Let me say that in English. A supply shock is meant to have a transitory effect on inflation. Now, we all got scared of the word transitory because transitory during the pandemic meant a few years. But as a result, if you think that inflation might come down on its own, then maybe the Fed should respond less to that inflation shock and more to the reality that we already have a slowing economy and it might be about to slow even more.
So, in English, that means the Fed faces a dilemma. You can't predict their behavior any more than I can predict their behavior. And that adds to what you mentioned a few moments ago, which is this thing that harshes everyone's mellow, to use real English, uncertainty.
Yeah. I think I want to actually vote for changing the word from uncertainty to disruption. It's easy to say that the president has created a lot of uncertainty, but really what he's done is created a lot of disruption. Uncertainty is the sort of thing where you can wait it out and see what's happening. Disruption is he's smashing things down and we don't really know what will come out in the wash as a result. I actually think that the agenda, not specific things about monetary or fiscal policy, but the broader agenda of what might be called the authoritarian turn of invading countries when he feels like it, starting trade wars when he feels like it, doing so without Congress, doing so without allies, doing so without making the case to the American people. Look, if I told you there was a bloke out there who started an insurrection one year, the next year next couple of years started a trade war, and the next year started a war in Iran, all of going without congressional approval, you might think to yourself, well, I wonder what this bloke's going to do next year.
Disruption indeed. Justin Wolfers, I appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.